Hello everyone. We start now the third and last day of the Global Management Week 2017. This day will be dedicated for the technology companies. These companies already face a more dynamic business environment while technologies are constantly changing the game. But the economic and political crisis brought even more turbulence to them. Over the past 2 days, we have explored how leaders adjust to economic turbulence in dynamic environments. Today we will have two special guests to go deeper into this. Mr. José Luiz Rossi, President of Serasa Experience, company in the information sector, and we also have the participation of the CFO of Capgemini Brazil, Mr. Leonardo Figueira. And here I have by my side Professor Luis Carnier, our colleague, expert in business strategy, to help us to understand their opinions of these very important guys.
Okay.
My first question goes to the President of Serasa Experience, Mr. Rossi. Thank you very much again for being with us today. How did your company react to the changes from the economic crisis in the last few years that were marked by great expansions and retractions in families' consumption?
In our case, this was quite sharp, because when Brazil was growing, the credit market grew to double digits. So we had a fantastic push that helped that company greatly. And then we had the credit market decline in the last 2.5-3 years ago. The drop was also quite pronounced, and let's say that we had under a moment of great approval as a company. My response to situations like this is that you have to start with a solid strategy. If you do not know where you are going, then you will end up nowhere. We always want to know exactly what's our direction and have a solid strategy that adapts to change the market presence. So, for example, in our company has big deals, recurring business, non-recurring business. Our recurring business is 80%, 20% is non-recurring. When the economy suffers, recurring business suffers even more because it goes with the economy. Credit carries decrease as the economy is affected. On the other hand, non-recurring business is also affected because entrepreneurs usually spend discretionary funds when they are confident in the economy. But focus on discretionary and more elastic business. Why? Because I can take up the space of my competition. When I have large market share in recurring business, the deal is inelastic. So getting to know the characteristics of your operation, of your business, makes us the right effort in those areas of your business that have the most capacity for reaction. I usually say if it's difficult for me also, it's also difficult for my competitor. So it is in time of crisis that you have the opportunity to stand up from the competition. So I like to say that we should never waste a good crisis. At this point, you also control unnecessary costs to be a leaner company, a cleaner company. And we operate on both sides. On one side, focusing on cost, making the company much leaner, much more concerned about costs unnecessary to our core business. On the revenue side, we try to contain the applicant where the crisis does not depend on us. Or rather, the crisis impacts us in such a way there is nothing we can do. We devote more energy the company can make decision to buy or not. At least so I can walk on the space of my competition. So again, it's short a solid strategy. Throughout knowledge of your strategy and quickness and of action to focus on those areas of strategy to have more time to react, knowing that you have areas where you have the less influence on the end result.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rossi. Thank you for your explanation. Those who are watching this video today may have realized how important it is that you have expressed very well, how important having a strategy and sticking to it is to a company. Could you give us some more examples, concrete actions to exemplify the way that economic turbulence was managed in your company?
During a crisis, we act in two ways. One, we look at products that we already had and which would be the ones that would make the most sense to give focus, and also looking for new products that we, for example, could look at some market. So, for example, when you increase the failures to pay, one of the problems of the company is charging. How do they charge? And then we increased our charging products. We create the products of online charges, which we call Clean Name Online, so that the people that failed to pay can negotiate their debts and therefore leave the negative status. So we improved this product, focused on it, and showed how companies could benefit from a product, and focused precisely on increasing failures to pay as a result of the crisis. So focusing energy on the product, bringing the market a more timely solution that the markets go through, was one of the ways we found to find a new resource of revenue. Also, when you are in a crisis, you are to start looking, well, I need to revamp my business. Does my business with assets, I get to have more products? And we have a very solid information base. Our company is based on a tripod, a very strong database, very differentiated, and operational and technological capacity, and a very strong brand. And we took this and we saw that the market for buying and selling inputs was a market that was not well attended by companies that could give credit information, quite good for decision making. So we've created a portal for suppliers called Serasa Connect, which has nothing to do with our day-to-day credit business, but it's a portal to certify suppliers so that companies can have a lower cost on time that they have to select the suppliers that may be most suitable for their business. Again, it's not a business focused on our business purpose, which is credit information. It is more comprehensive than this, but it uses our assets. So in a moment of crisis, it's also a time for you to rethink the basics. Let's say it's a basic structure and see if you do not have hidden assets that can be turned into products for the market. The need causes us to find new forms of revenue. So the strategy was to reinforce some products that we already had. I think they could be more, so to say, interesting for our clients to give moments of crisis. So we look at charges at once that failed to pay. And we also use our database to create a new product, a portal of suppliers. He uses the new strongest assets, but also to find new source of revenue. So that are two examples where the Serasa expert worked to be able to, let's say, offset the decrease of revenue coming from the traditional business, which was very much in the line of change of economy.
It's really interesting to observe this sensibility that you show for our clients' needs, this comprehension from your role inside the value chain, your specific role, the specific value that Serasa Experian delivers to the market. These and other aspects of what you said will be discussed here in our Q&A session. And I call now for our discussion Mr. Leonardo Figueira, CFO from Capgemini Brazil. Leonardo, please tell us more about the adjustments or strategic changes that your company had to implement facing the economic transformations that the company faced in the last few years.
I think it is a word that used, in my point of view, is more correct adaptation. It is not a change of strategy, but an adaptation. The company has a clear strategy. We here at Capgemini are long-term investors in the country. We are here to stay. We want to increase our market participation, keep growing, and there is very much room for it. At the time of recession, as we have lived more strongly in the last 2 years, it is a time that any company began to make or accelerate a review of its internal process. It is a time when it reviews some business units, some markets. It is the time when you have to look within from a perspective of dealing, reviewing process, no longer moving forward with product lines or lines of business that are not as profitable, and you make as adaptations that you need to maintain its profitability and growth. So the first moment, internal look. Second moment, external look. What a multinational does for other units out there, because I cannot bring some experiences that I don't have in other countries. Some new problems, some new products, some new technologies we can add better process, better efficiency and even better value in the market. Adding value to my client, to his process, to his business. So this is also what you do. And you also look at the market externally here in a slightly broader way. You start to look at the opportunities you have in the market. Some sectors you didn't think about before, some sectors that you already are in, but maybe it's a time of you not invest more or invest a little less. Some kind of client that you, in a crisis, you have the opportunity to bring it to. Because it's also seeking efficiency. Sometimes you are the answer to this, some sectors, so it's time to reinvent yourself and look internally, and secondly, looking externally as well.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. It was an exceptional reflection to combine a deep look at the company with careful observation to real market demands. Soon we will discuss everything this with Professor Carnier and all of you that are watching us today. But I have observed that you mentioned an effort to look for solutions that can be positive to our reality and the moment we live. Could you give us some examples regarding to that?
What we out there, when we travel and look at the other companies in the group, what is being done, we found a great revolution in the digital world. We see that all business are being modified by a digital transformation. There are experiences in various sectors, financial sector, transportation sector. People sometimes find themselves on the internet with some realities. Digital banking, bitcoins, that is, things that still seem here in Brazil to be distant things, out there are realities. Cars, autonomous buses, etc. We unfortunately have a pact that the crisis is causing here in the country. We are getting a little behind. You see that companies are dedicating 30-40% of their budgets in IT for digital transformation. And here in Brazil, because they have had to cut investments in recent years, what we still see in the investment to maintain a base, an investment of infrastructure, or simply focusing on process and also on cost efficiency. But what we need, and fast, is to resume their investment speed, the wave of digital transformation that needs to come quickly to Brazil and really impact the way that we do business here.
Thank you, Leonardo. Thank you very much for your explanation. I think it closes with, in a brilliant way, our cycle of presentations for today. It's worth highlighting what you told us about the possibility of a global company bringing to a local market ideas and resources from abroad that helps overcome the difficulties of a crisis. And beside that, this vision about crisis is a factor that takes a country out of the wave of technological development, this view is something even deeper in a debate of strategies during the economic crisis. Once again, Leonardo Figueira, CFO at Capgemini, thank you for being with us, and thank you, José Luis Ross, CEO of Serasa Experience, for your contribution today. With this, I invite Professor Luis Carnier, our colleague here, to comment on the opinions of the interviewers today. Carnier, please, I think that we can start with the opinions of Leonardo from Capgemini, and after we can come back to Ross's Serasa Experience opinions. Leonardo, following what other colleagues mentioned here in our events, defend that you cannot give up the company's strategy according to the circumstance of crisis. Since he is part of a global organization, managing products and markets in different countries, he mentioned the possibility of bringing this international experience to enrich local operations. What do you think about it? Could you suggest an international benchmarking as a tool to develop new solutions when the market is handling difficulties?
Oh yeah, I think that's very interesting presentation we have today, especially because they talk about being global, as the buzzword is think global and act local. Now that's what you call glocal. This is the expression that we have. And the experience of Capgemini is very interesting in terms of bringing to Brazil, bringing to the subsidiaries in South America and Latin America, the experience they have, the background experience they have in Europe, in the United States, for example, or in Japan. Especially because crisis is not restricted to our countries. You have a crisis all over the world, United States, Europe, in the US. Anyway, so I bring those experiences into Brazil, into South America, bringing, those solutions and adapt those solutions to our local environment. That's the name of the game today, because we live in a globalized world that we saw in other presentations the other days. So I think the experience of a CAP is very, very interesting, and we have to take advantage of that. If your company in your country is not a multinational company, is a local company, how can you get this experience? You can have this experience by the relationship you have with your customers, which are probably our multinational companies. So, and today we are in a collaboration world, and we have what we call co-working or co-creation, which is the expression that we have. So you sit down together with your client, which is a multinational company, or your supplier, which is a multinational company. You can get the same advantage of Capgemini in terms of globalization. I think that's the way we have to.
For sure. Well, Serasa Experience is a provider of market information. With the crisis, it sought to improve its value offer in the market, offering specific services in the crisis context. It's perfect. Do you think that this is an action that could be developed for other organizations? I mean, during a crisis, a manager should analyze enlargements and changes in its portfolio to offer something more relevant in that context.
In the academic world, we used to have the case studies. Probably you have experience with that. So the case studies, you take the case of a company, see how the company acts, and use that experience to your business. The same thing we can do with Serasa Experience. Okay, they are in the crisis business now, so they develop products to solve, to have solutions for crisis development, crisis effect. But you can use the case of Serasa Experience to develop products that can help your clients in the crisis environment. That's very interesting. So the case of Serasa Experience can be used any company. By taking the example, use that as a benchmarking and adapt to your business. Make this translation to your business. That's our recommendation, because I think it's a good recipe for your business.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much, Professor Luis Carnier. I'd like again to invite you to participate of the managerial contest. a study case competition that is going to distribute $100,000 in scholarships. Read the rules of your contest and enroll your group. It will be great to hear your ideas in this debate. We are going to take a break of 1 minute and we'll come back to answer live your questions. See you soon. Hi, we are now back to the Global Management Week 2017, last day of our panel, starting our Q&A session here. If you want to get your certificate of participation, please don't forget to sign the attendance list available in the chat tab, okay? And you can also send your contribution there, your opinion, your question. And you can also win a scholarship offered by our supporting institutions. You can also win a scholarship forming a group for our managerial challenge, okay? The first question that we are answering today comes from Ghana, Africa. Mr. Gilbert Laterly asks, what strategy will best help an organization during periods of crisis in a matured product's life cycle in order to increase the revenue? Well, we know that when your products get this almost last stage of the product life cycle, which is the mature stage, if the crisis comes, your product will be more affected than if it was, for instance, in an increased moment of this life cycle. But you can still do something to perfect your market entrance, like working on distribution, finding other ways to reach your customers, and also trying to modify your product, not only by creating a totally new product, but also you can think of incremental innovation, like small details that you can perfect in your product. But everything here is about to perfect the cost-benefit ratio. When you see the clients closer, when you hear what your clients are needing, you can perfect your products and get them closer to the client's expectation. And today's debate was about technology, how technology can help companies to improve their market position. And my suggestion for you is to really invest in technology. Technology is the key aspect for today's development in your market presence. So take it into consideration, and I wish you good luck, Mr. Gilbert from Ghana. Now I have a question from Nigeria. Mr. Stephen Mwogbo from Nigeria asks, how does someone excel in business with economic crisis facing the environment? Well, this is all about what we have been talking in these events, Mr. Stephen. The whole idea is trying to adapt your strategy to make some adjustments without jeopardizing your long-term planning. The most common mistake companies make is trying to reinvent the wheel during periods of crisis, starting a new business unit, creating a new market positioning, and it will create a confusion in the client's perspective of your company, changes the way your whole team is used to serve your clients, and it of course you ended up creating even bigger problems for your company. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Mogbo from Nigeria, for participating in this discussion. Now I have a question from Macedonia. Ms. Marija Karov asks, do you think new startups, new companies should focus more on creating or add-ons on existing products or services instead of inventing something that already have been invented? Well, Marija Karov, you know that emerging countries usually don't have the resource, material, human, financial resource to really create new technologies. What happens more often in emerging countries especially is that companies there use the already existing technologies to create new uses of it, or just to create add-ons on the pre-existing technologies. But even if you look at the most interesting case in the developed countries more recently, you will see that those successful companies are not successful because they created new tools, but they better use the new one, the already existing ones. Even if you see the iPhone case, a great success in the last 10 years, if you look back in the past, most of the technologies that Apple was using at that time were already existing technologies, not entirely new. There was no disruptive innovation in this case. So I would invest on small incremental innovations as a way to succeed in these markets. Okay, thank you, Ms. Marija Karov, for sending your question. And with that, let's move on to the questions that you are sending now in our live chat tab. Please, Julio.
We have a question from Ms. Boikotsu. Do you think that the technological developments and innovations are happening too fast for some companies in emerging markets, especially if the companies aren't multinational with a global presence?
I believe I understand what you mean by too fast, but I don't agree with that, Ms. Boikutso. The whole idea of the technological development is that customers are willing to have access to better products and services, not the opposite. They are willing to stay with those old products. Even if we are thinking of the same products that have been used in the past, but acquired by new ways, like it's the case of Uber or the case of Airbnb. Well, getting a cab is not new, but the way you are getting a cab was revolutionized by Uber. Or getting a place to stay is not new, but how you access this place using Airbnb is very new. These new technologies are revolutionizing their markets, especially because they are not paying too much attention to what is new or old in the market. They are offering the best solutions for their clients at the fastest pace possible in this operation. But of course, when you see a market getting too fast that clients cannot follow the pace, or all the partnering organizations that should provide assistance for these companies cannot keep up the pace of this development, well, the company will probably decide to slow down a little bit. But what we have seen in the current crisis in the last 10 years around the world is the opposite. My concern is that some companies are investing too little in technological development, that they are being left behind by the competition. Okay, so once more, thank you, Ms. Boikutso, for sending your questions. And with that, I'd like again thank you very much for all of you that have watched our presentation, this online symposium organized by IBS Americas. Was an opportunity to discuss, to go deeper into the debate about company strategies in periods of crisis, a very important matter for your personal and academic and professional development. And I hope you continue this discussion by forming a group and participating in our managerial challenge, an international competition that will distribute 100,000 scholarships, $100,000 in scholarships for our short-term international programs. So see you there. Thank you very much. Good luck. Bye-bye.